God, welcome. I'm Catherine, and this is Off Topic with Catherine, where stories spill over, lessons get learned, life gets messy, just like it should. I'm so happy you're here with me today because I have a topic that I wasn't really sure how to introduce. It made me feel a little bit judgmental. And my dog Apollo is here with me today. I'm so happy. Apollo, you can say hi to everybody or bark if you want. Today we are going to talk a little bit about how growing up with some very opinionated, strong women influenced me, at least in the early part of my life. That included my mom, my aunts, sitting around the kitchen table or just pretty much anywhere, any social gathering. And they were professional in judging. They were professional in evaluating, ranking people. And so growing up in that kind of environment, it became normal to me. And that is how I learned to understand the world. And I observed and I evaluated pretty much every situation. I started ranking people myself. So when we heard that somebody was, getting divorced, the reaction was, oh, what? Why? What happened? Whose fault was it? Why couldn't they keep it together? Why didn't they stay together? For the children, for the family, for appearances. I mean, surely they could have sacrificed what they felt in order to keep the family together and not have a broken home. That's a term I used to use a lot. I used to hear a lot growing up. Broken family. Yeah, it doesn't sound very good. And how about those folks that lived paycheck to paycheck? How irresponsible were they? How could they not possibly find a way to manage their finances? They definitely must have been doing something wrong. And this didn't only happen in a time when I was with my parents, but afterwards, when I myself had my own family. I would look around and I would wonder, hey, this person has a good job. What's going on? How can they not manage? And how about those folks that worked long hours because they were so maybe not good at managing their life? So they had to work 10, 12 hours a day, past retirement even. And I would wonder, hey, what's going on here? Surely it must be their fault. And I guess that gave everybody else the right to say things, anything they wanted, in private, far away from them, and sort of even distance themselves a little bit. And then one day, life threw a curveball at, yes, me. And I was that person who, after working for so many years, teaching, working several other jobs that I enjoy doing, by the way, I found myself trying to manage myself paycheck to paycheck. Hey, Was I not responsible? What happened? How did I end up being one of those people that long ago, or maybe not that long ago, I had so quietly put in this little bucket? And working hours. My 5-hour day shifts turned into 10-hour day shifts, turned into 12-hour day shifts. That was me. And that did not last for a week. It did not last for a month or for a year. It lasted for several years. It lasted for so long that I kind of missed my children growing up a little bit because I needed to do what I needed to do. And they understood. And we did it together. Now, there's a little situation that sort of falls on the same little platform, but slightly different. I had met a person who had paraplegia. And I befriended this person and got to know them and got to learn a lot about how they lived life and how their disability had challenged them in many ways, but at the same time gave them the opportunity, if that's a good word, I don't know, to see the world in very different ways, to see things that they would have not seen had they not been in a situation like that. Not that, we wish this upon people, but befriending this person also helped me see the world through their eyes as much as I possibly could, because I wasn't in their body. And what I want to share about that is people that were close to me did not understand the relationship that I had with this individual, and probably questioned, what can a person with paraplegia, with a disability, offer someone? Because if they are unable to walk, then must they have other disabilities that are preventing them from, intellectually? No, on the contrary. And so what I learned from this particular situation is remarkable things. So now when I do see people with certain disabilities, I can understand what they've gone through and what they experience, but also how they have taught the world a different perspective, how to perceive the world differently. Now, going back to the time where I found myself in a situation where I was a divorced person, a person living paycheck to paycheck, and a person working so many hours that not long before that I would wonder, hey, what kind of life are you living? Don't you want to find a balance? That's not the kind of life that you want to provide for your children. Well, that's all true. That's all true. But what was even more disappointing is that people that were in my entourage, whether they were closer or a bit further away from my personal relationships, they started to feel that perhaps this was contagious. My life having changed so drastically must have been some type of, situation where if they, continued to be close to me, perhaps maybe they would get divorced. Maybe they would end up living paycheck to paycheck. Or maybe they would find themselves in a situation that was, I don't know, not as upper in the ranks as they would have liked to. And that's when I realized that there are people out there that understood or that tried to understand, and they maintained these relationships with me. And they gave me the opportunity to explain myself, to share my experiences with them. And those were the folks that did not judge me, that did not ask me why couldn't I have done things differently, and made me feel ashamed or blame me for where I was at that particular moment. Now, what I learned from all this is that I became so resilient. And no, I didn't become more perfect, but I did become more understanding. I became more curious, and I became a lot more compassionate. And I also learned that people are doing the absolute best that they possibly could. And that's when I started asking, hey, what happened? I want to hear your story. Tell me about it. Because I was able to relate to that. And yes, it sounds a little tough. It sounds like a situation where, hey, wouldn't it have been better if, it hadn't worked out that way for you? I don't know. I will never know. I don't know. But what I can honestly say is that it did make me into a better person. Of course, we can all be better than we actually are, but it made me into a better person. Because when I see someone struggling, I can understand that it wasn't a choice. Well, to some extent, it is a choice that we make, obviously, but we don't make that choice in order to hurt our families and make it more difficult for ourselves. Sometimes we make those choices because they are the better choices to make at that particular time. And for me, these are things that were the best things that could have ever happened to me. I was able to work through it, become closer to people that really brought value to my life, and that I was able to bring value to their lives as well, and to perhaps be there to support and guide others that may be going through a similar situation without judging them. And again, looking back, do I blame my mom, my aunts, my relatives? Mostly it was women, of course, that sat around the kitchen table and, chatted about these things and tended to distance themselves from situations that, They had a hard time understanding. Not really, because they didn't know. They never experienced that. And how would you know? So that's a little bit about my story today, and learning how judging others is never a good thing. But understanding others, if they give you the opportunity, is certainly the way to go. Now, thank you for listening to my story today. And today's Greek coffee wisdom is this. When we're sitting around the kitchen table with anybody, let's listen and let's always ask, hey, how's it going? What happened? And remember, things aren't contagious the way we think they are. Now, thank you for listening. And just remember, life's a little better when you go off topic. Thank you.